Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. Today's upload is going to be a episode or a long range outlook, I should rather say, on the pattern and a little update on the snowstorm that was occurring and is still occurring across parts of the Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, and potentially shifting into parts of Illinois right now. So, if you like these type of updates, if you like these type of videos, consider subscribing to my channel. And I am so grateful for you guys. You have absolutely killed my last video. I've gotten, look, 7 hours, and I've gotten 3,000 views. I can't count the amount of views I've been getting lately and amount of subs for the past 3 to 4 months. I've been getting insane amounts of subs. So really thank you for that. And again, if you like this, if you'd like to subscribe, if you like to like the videos, all up to you. Just consider doing so. So right now we're seeing the snowstorm. Generally, it was as forecasted. There was a northern part to it. There was a southern part to it. If we were to look at the radar right now, which I won't pull up, there is which I don't have pulled up and I don't want to pull up. We have a southern section right now snowing in Kansas City, St. Joseph, Wichita, Kansas, Topeka, Kansas area. Moving into portions probably of Iowa. And there's a bunch of hard freeze warnings and hard freezes, and frost advisories. So the general pattern I think that we'll be witnessing right now is cold, and cold for at least the eastern part of the country, while the western part of the country may be a little bit warmer. In terms of precip, this pattern won't be that active. We're actually going to be seeing very minimal amounts of snowstorms. Not much rain, neither snow, but quite a bit. There could be some cold shots. It could be not cold shots. It could be some snow shots of lake effect and into portions of northeastern United States. But otherwise, a very sedentary pattern, just cold and dry. That's the best way to put it. So you can see this moves out, becomes a fairly big storm out into Canada, James Bay. So those areas where they typically see snow, like a lot of snow at this time of the year, we'll be getting that snow, and you can see the front drags all the way down to the south, bringing in that cooler air, lots of frost and freezes for the next couple of days across much of the United States. This pattern has definitely brought an end to many crop areas. Many harvests are happening right now. Farmers are scrambling to get their crops in due to the fact that this has been a very quick onset of the cold. And this is what I'm talking about. You see this system. This is kind of a Manitoba Mauler, Alberta Clipper, a Saskatchewan Screamer, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really origin from any of those. It kind of comes out of nowhere, off from the ocean, and, falls apart, brings snow showers to Michigan, UP of Michigan, Minnesota, the Northeast. You could see areas like upstate New York, Maine, the Vermont, New Hampshire areas, Massachusetts even seeing some snow, and you can see nothing major. The biggest amounts of precip will be to the south. They will be actually seeing quite a bit of rain. So if you live in Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, especially parts of eastern and southeastern Texas and Florida, quite a good healthy amount of storms and rain. So the reason why that is because with this cold air, we are seeing right now with this cold air, let's draw this out. We are seeing a high pressure right in here, and there's just one after another. They keep moving in, and while they are in charge, while they are roaming across, the northeastern part of the United States, they have some huge expanse. They are basically sending the storms up and around, and you can see that's why they have a storm up in Canada, and it's basically controlling this weather. And there are some lows that manage to push in on the southern flank of this high, and that's the reason for these rains in the southern part of the United States. That's why it's going to be wetter in those areas. But where the high is in control, it is high and in charge, and it won't be budging. anytime soon, or at least the regime of the highs, because there will be many of them. There will be one after another, bringing in the reinforcing cold shots. You could see with these systems, with these cold fronts, we get some lake effect action going on. That'll be very interesting. I may just make a video on it, like the lake effect machine acting up. If you want me to make a video about that, if you live in areas like Detroit, Upper Michigan, anywhere that, South Bend, Indiana, Cleveland, Ohio, Erie, Pennsylvania, if you live in those areas and want me to make a video about the lake effect, leave a comment saying you'd want one. And you can see northern Maine be seeing some snow. So this is around next week. So next week we may be seeing some activity. Generally, I would say, some snow across these portions of the woods, but nothing insane in terms of huge snowfall amounts. So probably the biggest one is right here across northern Maine in that area. Otherwise, snow showers a little bit early on in the season, but you can see afterwards the pattern starts breaking through, and at the same time the cold air, which is interesting, the cold air breaks up, which allows some of these systems from the south and the Pacific Ocean filled with plentiful moisture. Unlike the systems that are coming in from the north in Canada that are moisture starved, they don't have much moisture and actually fall apart by the time they reach parts of the United States. These systems have fairly, they're loaded with moisture, and they could start bringing in fairly big amounts of rain and snow. And if we were to look at some of the other models, actually, at the pivotal weather, this is a model that's called CFS. I would not recommend using it at all for forecasting storms in particular. Maybe to forecast some patterns in the long range. I mean, it goes out 756 hours. So again, we got to take this with a grain of salt. This accuracy is going to be very minimal. So you can see right now it's showing again those systems to the north. Not much action going in the central part of the United States, and then again the action starting to break, and we're seeing those snowstorms or even storms, whether coming down into portions of the United States, not portions of the United States, and bringing some snow and mainly precip, not even that cold, but very interesting. We'll need to see what happens. I may be making a video on the fact that why this pattern now. This dry and cold pattern may indicate a warmer but more active, snowier pattern. And at that time, it will be warmer but still cold enough to produce snow. So, not much to talk about in terms of precip, other than, again, the south. South will get quite a bit of precip. The tropics are still trying to act up, and they are, pummeling portions of the south, especially areas like Florida, southeastern Texas, Louisiana, New Orleans, Houston, Texas, Dallas, areas like that. You could see with good amounts of rain. Let's go to total snowfall. You could see again areas like the very far portions of Maine and New Hampshire, Vermont, New York. You could see some snowfall. Again, nothing significant other than that one area in Maine where could be seeing that snowstorm. We may need to make a video on that when that comes through. And you can see the only snow that's gonna fall is the snow that it's gonna fall in the next 24 hours across these areas in the mountains and here across the Midwest, which is occurring right now. Otherwise, very minimal amounts of snow other than the northeastern parts of the United States, and huge amounts of snow for Canada, for southeastern Canada, provinces like Ontario and Quebec. So let's quickly go to the 6 to 10 day outlook in terms of temperatures. You could see above average temperatures across the northwest, so very not too varying contrasts, I meant to say, across the United States. Remember how one time, weeks ago, maybe a week ago, we had these huge air masses. Here was insane cold. Here was really warm. Well, now the tables have turned. You could see, and the precip again very below average. Other than that southern portions of the United States seeing those above average conditions in terms of precip. Now let's move on to the 8 to 14 day outlook, which is states right here, October 22nd to 28th. So you can see the pattern still remains with that cold air, but in terms of that precip, it's a little bit less shaded or a little bit less brown in color. So maybe that pattern starts to break and this precip starts to put up a little bit to the north, push up. But generally through the rest of October, I would say cold, dry, and snowy, if that makes sense, because it doesn't take a lot of liquid to produce a lot of snow, because it could, if it's cold enough, the ratios can be fairly high. So even though it's gonna be a dry pattern, you could still see some portions of or northeastern area amounts like 7, 6 inches, even 12. So I'd quickly like to actually go back to the 2-meter temp anomalies. You could see, or anomalies I should rather say. Let's go back to our 0. Again, with this system, this brought a huge cold front into the United States. Massive, massive high, just in charge, dominating, producing tons and tons of cold air. You can see that kind of dives down really far south. I mean, really far south into Mexico, as far south as Mexico and the southern tip of Texas. And I think that during the winter, we can see some of these things repeating. And with that, people are asking on our winter outlook video why portions of Houston, Texas, maybe saying, not Houston, like Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, areas like that, I do think have a fairly good shot of seeing snow this year in those areas. But you can see reinforcing shot after reinforcing shot of cold air, especially centered. What I'm saying is especially centered across this part of the country. And excuse me, again, in these portions of the woods, a little bit warmer and drier. So that's not necessarily good for the wildfires and for the drought in the areas that there is some drought. And you can see that a little bit pattern break right there, maybe a possible snowstorm, or not snowstorm, just a storm. But again, another cold shot of air comes through, aligned with that warm in the west, and that tries breaking through, but that cold air is very reluctant to stay. That warm air tries breaking through some warmer days, but that cold air comes back. So I would say fairly through the end of October, anywhere east of, say, central Minnesota, central Iowa, central Missouri, northeastern Kansas, and in these parts of I should include it like this, in these parts right here, I think there's a fairly good shot of being below average for the rest of the month, not just at some periods, and here being above average for these conditions. But again, for these areas, I meant to say. And again, I was saying at the beginning of the year, and I still am saying, that the Northwest this year doesn't seem too good in terms of the precip amounts and in terms of the coldness, but that may lessen up, and this harsh regime of insanely warm and dry conditions may change a bit, so don't get too caught up in that. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you got a good update on this video, or a good update on the weather. Hopefully you enjoyed, hopefully you learned something new, and I'll catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya.